I'm the deep-feeling secondary male character in a novel, existing just to serve the female lead. When she makes a mess, I clean it up and take the blame. She drops out of school, I find her a high-paying, easy job. She gets pregnant out of wedlock and isn't accepted by the guy's family. I take care of her and her daughter. But with just a word from the male lead, she steals company secrets, ruining my family. I get a second chance and go back to high school. She steals the entire class's donation money to buy a phone for the male lead but expects me to cover for her. Sam, just pay the $20,000 first, consider it a loan from you. I laughed it off and exposed her for theft. Later, she begged me to be with her, asking me to marry her. I coldly responded, do you even deserve it? Sam, hurry and check. Linda's in trouble. In that moment, I opened my eyes to find my childhood friend David right in front of me, looking urgent and helpless, saying, she lost the donation money. Everyone's about to confront her. Hearing this made me almost laugh out loud. I've come back to my junior year. At this point, a city had an earthquake, and the school organized students to donate to the disaster area. Our class prepared for 2 weeks of minimal meals to scrape together $20,000. In the end, Linda lost it. Naturally, the students were livid and gathered around her looking for answers. In my past life, I charged over as soon as I heard, immediately shielded her, and claimed I'd lost the money, promising to repay it. And I did, out of my own pocket. But not only did Linda lack gratitude, she blamed me for insulting her by meddling. I was the one helping her, yet had to apologize profusely. Looking back, what was I even thinking? And that $20,000? It wasn't lost. She stole it for Henry's new phone. I can't fathom her logic. She pitted the carefree Henry, clad in designer brands, always skipping school, getting into fights and causing trouble, rather than those poor earthquake-hit folks missing out on meals and clothes. Seriously, in my last life, I must have been blinded to think she was kind. Sam, why aren't you talking? If you don't go, Linda's gonna get... I cut off David. Did she send you to find me? That's what struck me as odd. Somehow, whenever she was in trouble, David always knew and would call me over. Each time I'd help, Linda would coolly retort, who asked you to meddle? Last time I was blind to these things, but this time I'm done being a sucker. Linda didn't directly ask David to find me. She simply mentioned to him about losing the money and people confronting her. David knew I liked Linda and wouldn't want her hurt, so he approached me. Unfortunately for him, that was last time. After my family got ruined thanks to her, no way I'm dealing with her problems now. And she ought to face the consequences of her actions. With that in mind, I formulated a plan. As David and I approached, our classmates were angrily surrounding Linda. The class leader was almost in tears. I said I'd look after it, but you insisted, and I didn't want to seem like I didn't trust you. Now see what happened? You know what we sacrificed to raise that $20,000. Many will be living on bread and pickles for weeks. Plus, without the donation, folks in a city will suffer additional days. Linda stood stiff-necked, teary-eyed, and rudely interrupted the class leader. I didn't mean for this to happen, okay? It wasn't on purpose. I already said I'd reimburse it. What else do you want from me? In my past life, this was when I jumped in to take the fall for her. This time, I held David back from speaking up for her. Why are you stopping me? They're bullying Linda. We gotta help her. Looking at him, I saw my past self, naive and foolish. How is reasonable questioning bullying? She misplaced the money, yet acts victimized. It's the classmates bearing the loss who should feel wronged, right? Suppressing the urge to smack my past self, I whispered a few words to David and sent him on his way, then turned back to watch. I wanted to see, without me taking the fall, if Linda could still maintain her act. Could you please stop crying and try to recall where you were yesterday? That money could have been picked up and not spent yet. Maybe we could trace it back. Everyone could hear the class leader's anxious concern, but Linda felt attacked. Hearing that, she cried even more. I only lost $20,000. I didn't commit murder. I already feel bad enough. Must you drive me to despair? The classmates were speechless, until someone finally retorted. Who's driving you? We're just asking where you might have been hoping to retrieve it. Linda looked down, eyes evasive. With so many people around, anyone could have taken it. How to find out? I said I'd pay. Stop pushing already. When she said that, I knew it was time. Everyone stopped pressuring Linda. She told us the money's been stolen. We should focus on finding the thief. Seeing me, Linda straightened up, her expression filled with even more faux distress, lips bitten, looking both stubborn and pitiable. Had it been before, I'd have been unable to refrain from feeling for her. But now her expression disgusts me. She probably thought I'd, without hesitation, take the fall like before. So, she postured haughtily as I approached, announcing, "I don't need your concern." Funny joke. I never planned to help anyway. I just wanted to tear off her hypocrite mask. "Sam, you cover this $20,000 first. I'll pay you back later." Linda, with her chin up, ordered me. Because I didn't volunteer to take the blame for her this time, or say I'd help pay. She got anxious. She made an excuse to meet with me, and the first thing out of her mouth was asking for money. That's when I realized, if I don't proactively help her, she would actually ask me for help. When I used to help her unasked, she'd act like she was forced to accept it and even scold me for meddling. She wants my help but doesn't want to feel indebted. She wants it both ways. With a disdainful scowl, she said loftily, "It's a loan. Even if you don't want it back, I'll repay you. I don't want to owe you anything." She continued, "So don't even think about using money to humiliate me or force me to do something I don't want." I hadn't even responded, and she already laid it all out. Watching her act all high and mighty, I knew that the only reason I liked her in the past life was because the plot called for it. Without that context, she's just annoying. What about this self-righteous, pretentious woman should make me sacrifice everything for her? You're right. I shouldn't humiliate you with money. So, figure the money out yourself. She looked shocked and asked, "What do you mean? You're not going to pay?" She sounded like I owed her something. Just as I was about to retort, our classmates returned with David, and with them was Henry. Oh, here comes the fun. Linda suddenly changed her tone when she saw Henry. She approached him with feigned tenderness. "Why are you here? Is your injury better?" She tried reaching for him, but Henry pushed her away. Then Henry threw a box right in her face. "Are you kidding me? You bought this phone with your class's donation money. Are you out of your mind?" Linda squealed, blood flowing from her nose. The classmates, about to chastise Henry for getting physical, froze when they heard his words. "What? Linda, you took our disaster relief donations to buy Henry a phone? Are you nuts? That's disaster relief money. It's life-saving. How could you?" Facing accusations, Linda, holding her nose, chose to explain to Henry first. "Henry, let me explain." But Henry wasn't listening. He turned to everyone. "I may be a mess, but I wouldn't use disaster relief money. This phone was a gift from her for my birthday, and I didn't know where it came from. I already used it, so it's not being returned. I'll cover the $20,000, but this has nothing to do with me. If anyone gossips about me, there'll be consequences." He glanced threateningly at everyone. "I'll make sure you pay." People weren't afraid of his threats. They were just happy they'd get their money back. If anyone's to blame, it's Linda for using the money to flatter a guy. I glanced at her, surrounded by the crowd, scoffed, and left. In the past life, there was no drama like this. I paid the $20,000, and Linda just had to accept help unwillingly, playing the victim. Was she really supposed to be the resilient, independent heroine in those novels I fell for? It was those qualities that attracted me before, but now they're missing. Early on, she relied on me and my family's support. In the middle, she had different men clearing paths for her. Eventually, she married Henry, becoming a housewife, relying on him. Independent? She's a parasite who can't even manage on her own without a man. Strong? She tears up easily without solving anything. Cold? Yeah, but only to supporting roles like us. To the main guy, she's all sweet. No wonder supporting characters have to follow the plot. If any of us think differently, liking such a double-dealing woman would be impossible, let alone sacrificing everything for her. Linda's posted the same thing on social media 7 times today. The latest post came when she saw I was watching my feed. It was a picture of a necklace with the caption, "So pretty, kinda like it. In the past life, I would have immediately bought it for her. Now I just ignore it. My family's pretty well off, but my traditional parents believed in frugal living, so I got a 15,000 monthly allowance in high school. Less than a fifth was for me. The rest was spent on Linda. Her meals, bubble tea, desserts, even her red sugar water and tampons were on me. Oh, and gifts, clothes, shoes, bags, jewelry, whatever. She never directly asked for anything, only posted on social media like now with a picture and a caption. As the thoughtful and attentive supporting character, I'd always buy it for her. Yet, showing up excitedly with gifts never got a single smile in return. She'd just aloofly accuse me of stalking her social media, saying it made her feel trapped. She'd reluctantly accept, adding, "Don't do these pointless things. I don't need your charity or want to owe you." Now, I wonder if she didn't want me to see her stories. Why not hide them from me? If not for the constant postings, who would know she liked that necklace? 2 days of no response from me, and Linda got restless. While I was doing homework, she came to my desk, knocking with a frown, ordering, "Sam, come outside, I need to talk to you." I was super frustrated with my homework because I'd forgotten some of the material. I couldn't be bothered to look it up again, so I snapped, "Can't you see I'm doing homework? I have no time." She was obviously taken aback by my tone, hesitated for a moment, and then suddenly turned cold. "Sam, I'm giving you 3 minutes. Meet me on the rooftop." Then she just walked off. My classmates couldn't help but speak up for me. Who does she think she is? Huh. What makes her think Sam has to listen to her? Yeah, seriously. She's acting so high and mighty. Who does she think she's fooling? Ugh. I hate people who put on airs. Even David, who usually has a soft spot for Linda, sided with me this time. I never realized she had such a bad attitude. You've always been nice to her for nothing. I didn't go to the meetup, and when Linda came back before class started, she looked as sour as could be. After school, I saw Linda by my family's car as I went to find the driver. I almost forgot. She always catches a ride with us on Fridays, but she never asks outright. She just stands there with a blank face until I invite her. It usually takes a few attempts before she reluctantly gets in, and then she blames me for imposing on her. If she really doesn't want to ride with us, with all that space around, why stand by our car? This time, I decided not to bother and just got in the car. As I was about to close the door, she grabbed it, her face taut. "Sam, what's the deal?" I looked at her innocently. "What did I do? You kept saying you didn't want to ride with us, that I was ignoring your wishes, disrespecting you. Well, now I'm respecting your wishes. Isn't that okay?" She was stunned for a second, but then put on an all-important air. "I'll give you an opportunity today to take me home." With that, she reached for the door, ready to get in. I blocked the door. "Sorry, not on my way today. There's a bus over there. Why don't you take it instead?" Not used to being rejected, her face went bright red. "Sam, I couldn't be bothered to listen to her anymore. Just thinking about what she did in my past life made me sick. I shut the door and told Uncle Lee, "Let's go." The driver looked at Linda, hesitating to speak. I lowered my voice, "Go." He didn't argue, driving away. Not long after, I got a text from Linda. Her texting me was rarer than the sun rising in the west. I've always been the one to reach out, and she rarely bothered to reply. The last time she replied was a month ago when I told her I got tickets to her favorite concert and invited her to join me. She just said, "Oh." Couldn't have been less interested. Then she took my tickets and went with Henry instead. She'll never know how much it hurt to see her shy smile next to him in someone else's social media post. Back then, I just told myself as long as she was happy. After that, I kept reaching out, talking about topics she liked, but she never replied. This was the first time she texted me first. Too bad the content was annoying. "Sam, you should self-reflect because your recent behavior has really disappointed me." I thought to myself, who the heck are you to be disappointed in me? In my past life, I was set up to cater to you. I had no awareness, couldn't resist, just followed the script and cherished you. Now that I've come back to life with all the tragic memories from before, do you really think I'll still be under your thumb? You wish. She probably got impatient waiting for my reply because the texts kept coming. She had the nerve to start with the donation incident. If you just paid the $2,000, everyone would have been happy. But you blew it up instead. You know, your actions not only isolated me from the class, but also hurt Henry's pride. It was his birthday, no one remembered, he was already pitiful. Is giving him a gift so wrong? You ruined a young man's birthday dream. You're not even reflecting on stealing money. Huh? So amusing, in her mind, it's my fault for exposing her stealing donations to please Henry. She sent a screenshot of her social media post next. It's set so only some friends can see it. So her posts aren't for everyone to see? I'm guessing it was just for me to see. She hadn't realized her little scheme was exposed. Kept texting to criticize me. And did you block me? I think a normal, polite person wouldn't do that. She sent a wall of text complaining about what I did wrong. Like not letting her ride with us today. Not buying her a necklace. To her, these actions mean I'm rude and uneducated. In the end, she tried to sound gracious. Out of respect for your parents, I'm telling you this. Hope you listen. You don't need to thank me or buy me gifts because of what I said. First time I realized women can speak in opposites. Sorry, I'm taking your words literally. I replied with a bit of mischief. Got it? I won't buy you any gifts. Seeing her typing, again and again, imagining her frustration made me feel way too good. Then my parents had something to say to me. Dad said you should be eating, not playing with your phone. Look at that smug face. Those who achieve great things stay calm. Keep your feelings to yourself, got it? My sister giggled and quietly said, serves you right. I glared at her and told on her, so we both got a lecture from our parents. Looking at my still young parents and my playful little sister, remembering their tragic fate from my past life stabbed me right in the heart. It was my foolishness that led to their deaths. This time I'll protect them. Speaking of which, that incident should be happening soon, right? Linda, without me this time, I want to see how you handle that challenge on your own. Hey, your meal card is out of money. The lunch lady loudly reminded Linda, you don't have enough for this meal. How about paying in cash? Linda's face turned bright red. She didn't pay right away. Instead, she scanned the room and her eyes landed on me. Before I bought her meals all the time. Every meal was top-notch. I'd bring it right to her, and she'd always complain like I was forcing her to eat. She'd eat and leave, not even bothering to clear her tray. Lately, I've stopped buying her meals, stopped getting her bubble tea, stopped gifting her stuff. She's not handling the change well. A few times, she sat waiting for me to bring her food and missed the lunch rush. She's used to the fine stuff and won't touch the leftover scraps out of spite. After skipping meals a few times and realizing I wasn't going to buy for her anymore, she finally had to stand in line like everyone else. But I'd spoiled her so much that she started picking the pricey options and forgot her card was almost empty. That's how she ran out so fast. I knew she didn't have much money. When my family began supporting her, it was supposed to cover tuition and living expenses. When she got to high school, she refused the living expenses, only needed tuition, saying she'd work part-time. My folks praised her for being so tough and rare. But my mom worried and took her on a shopping spree, buying a year's worth of clothes and supplies. My sister even gave her a favorite diamond hair clip. But she took those and then accused us of belittling her with charity. I'll never forget her angry face when she said, "You think buying me stuff makes me grateful to you?" She went off about how poor folks have pride, and she'd never let us trample on it. I tried to explain we didn't mean that. She swore she'd take revenge on the humiliation one day. I thought being kind would win her over, show we cared, and expected nothing in return. But she betrayed us. I can't shake the thought. She sold my family's secrets to Henry, led us to ruin, drove my parents to terrible ends, and caused my sister's downfall. As for me, well, I'm left in a wheelchair and prison isn't kind. I did wish I could end her. But for now, she's done nothing yet. Hurting her would only hurt me. So, I'll use the story to destroy her. Linda realized I wasn't going to pay, and the lunch lady kept pushing. She snapped, "Quit rushing me. I'm going to pay you. Just wait." Then she headed my way. When she faced me, she always acted so superior. "Sam, here's your chance to redeem yourself. Pay for my meal and load $5,000 on my card, and I'll forgive you." Linda stormed off without lunch. "Linda, do I owe you or something? I need to pay because..." "Why? You're like who to me? I mean, I feed a stray dog, and at least it wags its tail. My family's supported you for 10 years, and now you treat me like a servant? Who do you think you are?" Her face went deathly pale, too stiff to look around at everyone staring. Our support was supposed to be secret since she was afraid of judgment, demanded privacy. Now, with it out, everyone was shocked and confused. Oh my God. Was it really Sam's family helping her? Anyone would think Sam was her servant by how she treated him. Remember at the start of the term, Sam's bubble tea wasn't her chosen flavor, so she threw it at him? Then she cried, and Sam, soaked, had to comfort her. What is she? A princess. They've supported her for 10 years, and she treats her benefactors like this? What a betrayal. Right? The spectators see what's up. Any decent person knows you shouldn't treat those who help you like enemies. Being the lead doesn't excuse her actions. She claimed humiliation, but accepted support while resenting us. 3 years' tuition is prepaid, or I'd pull the plug right now. But whatever, she won't stay in school long at this rate. If memory serves, something's set to happen soon. I checked on David, had to make sure he stayed safe, couldn't let my simple friend get hurt. A week passed, and she stopped me at the school gate. Her hair was greasy, clothes messy, face swollen, with marks hinting at trouble. Chin lifted. She kept that haughty air, just for me. She was desperate but spoke like she was above it all. "Sam, I need 300 grand and I need it in 3 days." Last time, at this point, she asked for the 300 grand. Back then, Sam was just a brainless and devoted sidekick. She, on the other hand, was the icy goddess who couldn't care less about me. I remember seeing her flustered and immediately grabbing her shoulders, worried and asking what happened. She jerked away, glaring at me like I'd insulted her. "Sam, consider this 300 grand a loan. I'll pay you back. Don't think just because you gave me money you can do whatever you want," she snapped. I swear, I was just concerned about her. Nothing shady on my mind. She mentioned trusting me enough to ask for money, even though plenty of others were offering. Back then, I couldn't hear anything else. All I saw was her distress, her scars. My heart ached for her. I wanted to protect her. She made me promise not to tell anyone why she needed that money. So I resorted to fasting, practically holding my parents hostage to get that 300 grand. Later, I learned the money was for Henry. She took time off for him. Apparently, Henry got drunk at a bar, picked a fight, and broke someone's head while getting his leg busted. The bar staff used his phone to call Linda. As soon as Linda heard Henry was hurt, she rushed over to him in the dead of night and took him home to care for him. Henry, groggy and mistaking her for someone else, ended up sleeping with her. I have no idea how he managed that with a broken leg, but they did. Before they could even catch feelings, the goons Henry had gotten into a fight with came for revenge. With his broken leg and other injuries, Henry couldn't stand a chance against them alone. And then the drama hit full swing. Linda, as the protagonist, was destined to sacrifice for the lead. So, she told the goons she'd do anything if they let Henry go. The goons, eyeing her up, suggested she spend the night with them and they'd spare Henry. For Henry's sake, Linda agreed. That night, Henry watched, helpless, as a girl suffered for him at the hands of those thugs. The experience left a profound impression on him. For the first time, he felt truly loved. Right then, he fell for Linda. Seeing his loved one degraded, Henry lost it. He dragged himself over, broken leg and all, to fight those guys. In the chaos, he accidentally killed one of them. The dead kid's family wasn't exactly peaceful. They gave Henry and Linda 2 choices. Face jail time, dragging Linda's reputation with him, or pay up 300 grand, and they'd forget the whole thing. Linda couldn't bear the thought of Henry going to jail, and Henry didn't want Linda's name tarnished. So they picked the 300 grand option. But Henry, being the family's bastard son, had long tested his dad's patience. There was no way he'd get the money. Linda, on the other hand, wasn't better off. When Linda was 5, her mom cheated, and her dad ended up killing her mom and the guy. Her dad's still in prison. She grew up with her grandma, and thanks to my family's support, they got by. Linda always talked about working her way through school. Never did much though. She relied entirely on me. She didn't even have $300, let alone 300,000. Henry decided to return home and apologize, and Linda thought of me, her rich, doting fool. In a past life, I starved myself for 300 grand for Linda. The moment she got the money, no thank you, she immediately asked the driver to take her somewhere. Not a word about how I looked on the brink of death. As soon as she left, I collapsed from dizziness. Before I passed out, I called her, asking her to take me to the hospital. Her response was cutting. "Sam, I took your money, but that doesn't mean you can boss me around. We're equals. Don't treat me like your slave." Weakly, I tried to say, "No, I just don't feel well. Please have the driver take me." She cut me off. "Sam, you're always so self-centered. To you, you're always the priority, but not for me. My stuff is way more important." Then she hung up. Before I could call 911, I passed out. A kind stranger got me to the hospital. I ended up with severe gastritis and spent days in the hospital. From when I started fasting to my hospital stay, Linda never came to see me or even asked how I was. After my release, I was hit with 2 pieces of news. Linda had dropped out of school, reason unknown, and David had died in a car crash. I didn't even get to say goodbye. At the time, I couldn't wrap my head around it, or maybe my brain just had a block, stopping me from understanding. David was naive, a bit reckless, but a trustworthy man. A total homebody, his biggest hobbies were cooking and gaming. He'd been at the hospital that morning with homemade chicken soup for me. He'd even said I should save room for dinner because he'd make pigeon soup. He had a simple routine, never went out without telling me or taking me along. So I couldn't figure out why he was in the old district and ended up in a crash. But I guess he was just another unimportant side character, not even worth a mention in the protagonist's story. There are times I forget he existed, but sometimes, late at night, I wonder about the mystery of his death. But here's the thing about this world. Being the supporting male character means I should only focus on the leading lady. Even my childhood friend can't be on my mind too much. It wasn't until I was reborn that I realized David died because of Linda. That day, a group of thugs ran into Linda on the street, remembering the fun they had with her last time, and asked if she'd join them again. Linda refused, even landed a kick right at one of the guys. So the chase began. While running away, Linda ran into David, who was leaving the hospital on his motor scooter to head home. She asked him for help. David, also a supporting character, had a natural inclination to help the leading lady, so he didn't hesitate. He took off with Linda. Linda directed David towards the old town. She was worried the thugs would notice Henry, who was waiting for her not far away, and she didn't want him in trouble. So she drew David into danger instead. In the chaos, the thugs rammed their car into David. In his final moments, David shielded Linda. The thugs threatened Linda not to say a word about it or they'd post video footage of that night online. Linda, scared they'd actually go through with it, agreed. She hurriedly cleaned up any trace of herself from the scene and fled. In the plot, when Linda left, David wasn't dead yet. He tried to ask for her help, but all she thought about was getting back to Henry to cry. She ignored him. David's last words were, "What a shame. I had already bought the pigeons. Sam, are you even listening to me?" Linda's annoyed voice dragged me back from my thoughts. She stared at me, gritting her teeth, ordering, "You have 3 days to come up with 3 million, or you'll be the reason I'm dead." I didn't ask why this time or agree. I looked at her with a half smile. "Linda, don't you think you're ridiculous? Why do you think I care about your life or death?" She froze, staring at me in disbelief, blurting out, "Don't you like me?" Hearing that, the disbelief turned to me. No exaggeration, it gave me chills. In the original storyline, Linda shouldn't know that I like her. In her mind, I was just a guy who used money to humiliate, coerce, and try to control her. That's why she could so easily plan for my whole family's demise. If she's known all along that I liked her, then what's the deal with everything she's done? Enjoying my devotion while plotting against my family? Where's your resilient kindness? Looks like you're just a manipulative viper. She didn't realize the weight of her words, looking at me as if it was obvious. You like me, but can't spare 3 million? Is your love that cheap? Sam, I can't respect you. I listened to her for a while, then couldn't help but laugh. Looking at her, for the first time, I let out all the hostility I'd harbored over 2 lives. I hit her with the nastiest words I could muster. Linda, what makes you think I'd like you? I, Sam, have money, looks, indefinite acceptance into a top university, and a promising future even without inheriting the family business. And you? What do you have? What do you even count for? Based on what? Because your mom's a cheater, your dad a murderer? Because you spend my money but give me attitude? Because after taking my family's support for 12 years, you act like it's beneath you? Or maybe, I checked her out, sneering, your dirty, broken body? I like you? Ha! More like you disgust me. 3 million is nothing to me, but even if I fed stray dogs with it, I wouldn't give you a cent. I was always gentle with her, always accommodating, giving her anything she wanted. I'd never spoken a harsh word to her. She never expected me to use her unpleasant past against her. She stood there, eyes wide, breathing hard, swaying. Sam, how dare you speak to me like that? I suggest you apologize and hand over the 3 million, or even if you kneel in front of me later, I won't ever forgive you. I shrugged, unfazed. I don't care. Didn't you say lots of people would lend you money? Go borrow from them then. I'm not stopping you. With that, I got into the car, drive to the nearby Market Street. To prevent Linda from going to David, I need to keep him close and out of trouble. He's off getting shrimp again, planning to make us some shrimp at my place tonight. I watched as the scenery slipped by, my gaze finally settling on a narrow alley at a street corner. Linda, let me give you one last nudge. In this life, like the last, Linda dropped out of school. But unlike last time, I didn't end up in the hospital, and David wasn't in an accident. And Linda got caught by the thugs who tormented her, recorded a bunch of videos before letting her go. I didn't provide Linda with a secure, good environment to live in, no lump sum of money for living expenses, wouldn't support her for a year, then give her a high-paying job with no effort needed. She eventually paid off that 3 million but ended up in more debt because she resorted to taking street loans, using naked loan tactics. But these guys aren't like me, silent givers. They want payback, enough to bury Linda forever. Meanwhile, Henry abruptly vanished from Linda's world. As the storyline goes, he realized there's no way he could give Linda happiness. So he left without a word, followed orders to go overseas for studies. He held back his true nature, hid his fangs and quietly laid low, starting his campaign for heir. For the next 5 years, both he and Linda worked hard in their respective fields, getting by on thoughts of each other. During that time, I took care of Linda, but to her, it was the darkest and most humiliating period of her life. She hated me and my whole family. Similarly, Henry felt the same. He thought the experience of being sent abroad to further his education was filled with darkness and despair, leading him to despise his family, his father, and his half-brother. 5 years later, he and Linda met again. When he found out Linda lived in my house, his hatred turned to me. He began using the corporation to suppress my family's company. During this time, he and Linda rekindled their old flame, and she ended up pregnant. Linda, unmarried and pregnant, wanted to marry Henry, but his family refused to accept someone without lineage or education. Angrily, she left Henry and returned to me. For the next 2 years, I cared for her and her daughter while she continued her entanglement with Henry. When Henry learned my family's business had overlaps with his, he sneered, "Why is he everywhere like a ghost?" Linda immediately came up with an idea. She proposed to Henry's family. If she helped deal with my family's business, they'd then allow her to marry Henry. Even though my family's company wasn't quite as strong, it wasn't easily broken. They agreed to her terms. Linda, exploiting my trust, stole secrets from my family's company. It was our all-or-nothing plan. If it succeeded, we'd make a comeback. If it failed, we'd be doomed forever. Our chances were initially 80%. Linda pushed my entire family into hell, destroying all our efforts. Henry already hated me, and his personal vendetta coupled with business rivalry ensured he crushed my family's company and saddled us with massive debts. My sister was forced to entertain guests in nightclubs to repay the debt. Unwilling to face such humiliation, she committed suicide, her body thrown in front of my parents. In despair, they both jumped to their deaths. Devastated, I carried a knife intending to kill Henry and Linda as revenge. Yet, I underestimated Linda. She had everything planned, waiting for me to walk into her trap. Her goal was to eliminate every trace. She ordered men to break my legs, crush my hands, leaving me crawling in the dirt. Looking down at me, she voiced her hatred built over the years. I swore I'd make you taste defeat beneath my feet. My last memory of her was seeing her cuddled in Henry's arms, cooing, "How do you like your wife's brilliance?" Later, they set me up and sent me to prison, where I died within days. In the last life, I was trapped as a side character, unable to resist. But this life, the suffering they caused my family, I'd make sure they tasted too. Getting Linda tangled with predatory loans was the first step. She was pressured to drop out of school to work. With no degree and not yet an adult, she couldn't find much work. She couldn't repay the debt with washing dishes. So, I discreetly hinted to her that nightclubs were fond of young girls like her. After all, it was her idea to suggest nightclubs for my sister last time, a quick way for a woman to make money, she'd said. As a supporting character, helping the heroine is my duty. 3 months later, I saw her again on a nightclub promo. Wrapped in a bedsheet suggestively, her once icy demeanor now pliant for the taking. It was a show called Wild Mustang, with her as the star. Basically, a strip show. Pay enough and she'd strip down. The highest spender could even take her home. Oh, and that dream of hers to marry into Henry's family? I'll lend her a hand there too. Only insiders know this secret. Mike, Henry's father, lavishes money at the Mustang shows, bailing out a debuting model to keep as a mistress. Little does the public know Mike's quite the pervert. Soon, my private investigator got snaps and videos of him and Linda. I didn't do much but anonymously sent them to Henry overseas. He missed her, so I'd kindly remind him. For a while, I ignored them. After finishing exams, my brother David and I, along with my sister, went on a vacation. When we got back, lots of things had changed from the original storyline. For example, Henry prematurely left his overseas studies. He found Linda, now pregnant, and being kept by his dad. She claimed she was forced. Father and son fought it out in the apartment. In a rage, Henry accidentally pushed his father off the building. Mike died instantly from the 26-story fall. With his dad gone, nothing would keep his wife from retaliating against the bastard child, sending Henry straight to jail. While he won't get out, it doesn't stop me from making sure he suffers more. He should experience the broken legs and crushed hands pain from the last life. Fair's fair, right? A month later, word got out that Henry had died. They said he died in such a way that he didn't even look human anymore. Rumors spread online that people couldn't stand Henry, the illegitimate child, and had him killed on purpose. The rumors seemed so real that stock prices began to get affected. I took advantage of the chaos to grab opportunities that, in the previous life, were supposed to be theirs. I expanded my company and made plans to take them over later. On the other hand, Linda wasn't having a good time either, and she didn't even wait for me to make a move. Someone dragged her to the hospital to have her child aborted. After that, she was forced to sign a lifetime contract with some wild nightclub, meaning she had to stay there and do what she considered the most profitable work until she died. It was what she deserved. 5 years later, I officially began taking over my family's company and started making moves for acquisition. Over the years, I had never stopped attacking their company. Plus, with all the scandals they've had, they went bankrupt. I didn't wipe them out entirely. I took a hands-off approach. Their fate was now in their own hands. After all, my main enemies were the leading man and lady. My sister grew into a healthy and beautiful college student. She still argues with me for fun and occasionally nags me about marriage on behalf of our parents. She's annoying at times but also very endearing. David opened a restaurant and business was booming. He became a laid-back boss, focusing on creating new dishes. He often brought his new creations to my office for me to taste and give feedback. Just when I thought everything had settled down, I saw Linda again. That day, as I was leaving my office, an old woman with a hunchback, so thin that she looked like a skeleton, with hair turning gray, stopped me. She grabbed my hand and, crying, said, "Sam, it's me, Linda. Sam, didn't you like me? I'm willing to be with you now. I'll marry you, okay?" I looked down in disbelief and saw a pair of familiar eyes beneath that messy hair. It really was Linda. I smiled, firmly pulled my hand back, and wiped it with a wet wipe. Then, looking at her hopeful eyes, I said, "Linda, do you think you deserve it?" After saying that, I walked past her, opened my car door, and got in. She froze for a moment, then rushed to grab the car door, screaming, "Why? Didn't you like me? You used to be so good to me. Sam, I'm begging you, don't treat me like this. Be nice to me like you used to, okay? I won't ignore you anymore. I know I was wrong, and I regret it. Please don't abandon me." Soon enough, security came rushing in and dragged her away like a madwoman. I didn't look back at her once. Even though I was just a supporting character, I still felt she, as the female lead, didn't deserve my deep affection.